It's a rare opportunity to catch me doing a live stream, but I had some time today, so I figured I would, you know, make that shit happen for y'all. Just gonna go over some new stuff. There was some polling that came out from UNH. We're gonna talk about that. And talk about some of the SCOTUS stuff that's going on. I think that's gonna be relevant to us. Sorry, I'm just trying to get all my stuff set up here. Live production, solo deal. My screens are all over the place. What it is. Yeah. So, I guess, let's maybe start out with some of the Granite State poll stuff, because I think that's probably just the most localized thing to start out with. Yeah, get that pulled up here. So, okay. I know everybody's super salty about not having any kind of polling available for Senate, CD2, and most specifically CD1. There's really crickets on the whole thing, and it kind of doesn't make sense to me. I'm sure it doesn't make sense to a whole lot of other people. You'd think with the, primary in full swing that they would be putting some energy into that, but they're not. They're just doing the same kind of bullshit that they always do, where they want to ask people about national topics. And I guess this is sort of reasonable. It sort of impacts us here in New Hampshire. I get it. There's the defense industry. A lot of tax dollars are going to a foreign war. We're just talking about approval ratings. So we'll just get into this stuff right here. I don't understand. I don't understand why this is we're laser focused on it, like everybody doesn't already know that this is where people stand. So we're seeing, generally speaking, pretty strong disapproval. It's just gradually expanding, as one would expect. I don't think there's any illusions about the skepticism towards the MOU that's happening with Iran right now. And there's literally new attacks. So the funny part is this poll, all this data was done before the US already reneged on the MOU. Not really surprising. Israel's been kind of throwing a hissy fit about the whole thing. So not especially shocking, but it's like this is how outdated everything is. That our news cycle moves so fast and events are happening so quickly that it's virtually impossible to collect any data that doesn't become incredibly dated the moment you release it, because it took time to put it together, and then by the time you actually release it, there's new information that would change the data in the polling. So I'm glad I'm not a pollster these days, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Think it's kind of funny. But yeah, so this is just the overall approval rating. Um, I think it's funny that, when you break it down into the like I guess what I'm really interested in is the difference between strongly approve and somewhat approve. Um, I would genuinely be curious to hear the more specific details on what makes somebody somewhat approve of what Donald Trump is doing as opposed to strongly approve of what Donald Trump is doing. But the fact that there's not a single stat in here from March to June where strongly approve is over 27% is funny. And we'll get into it further down, but uh, New Hampshire is definitely the most conservative of the New England states that are measured in this poll. Granted, they don't look at Maine, but it's sort of beside the point. Um, so we'll get into this right here. Those who approve of Trump's overall job performance most often say this is because of his handling of immigration, 25%, his handling of foreign policy, 21%, or his leadership or decisiveness, 12%. And that's just like Sorry, I'm trying to remove the word like from my lexicon. I apologize that I grew up watching Clueless. Basically, that's a byproduct of believing that success in the United States is dictated primarily by how much we strong arm other countries, which I don't understand because when the conservatives say America first, how is getting into fights internationally putting the country first? It just doesn't line up. I don't know what to do with that. Oh well. Some people are just too far gone and that's what it is. But if that's really only 25%, then there's another 75% of people that are not happy, and that bodes well to get out of the current situation that we're in if democracy itself isn't completely dissolved by that point in time. Which is possible. Um, Tough to say, but I usually ain't, and none of us have a crystal ball. So when anybody tells you they know what's going to happen or they think it's because they don't, that's talking out of your ass. So don't believe the internet comment threads. Go touch grass. Um, yeah. So I mean, I think the handling of immigration is obviously being at 25% is really sort of the leader there. Um, Very hilarious to me in a state that's over 90% white. Um, really demonstrates the baked in racism even when people say they're not racist or they've like hung out with folks that are not white. They have positive relationships with people that are not white. They still can't separate the fact that they are indeed racist from their sort of self-soothing desire to believe that they're they're not racist, even though they continue to use racist language because it's just the way things are, right? And that's fairly cooked. It's sort of exhausting for me. Live with it. Don't love it. C'est la vie. Um, the handling of foreign policy is really interesting to me because it kind of demonstrates the American psychosis of believing that utilizing hard power and strong arming other people is a preferable method to using soft power and diplomacy to get what you want. It's really just it's petulant. It, I think it's a very juvenile way to look at the world, but that's what we in this country have been trained to do. So the idea is that you actually need to try and enter into that space and maybe sort of baby folks a little bit to try and wean them off of that bloodlust as a mechanism to perpetuate and gain power. And maybe there needs to be some sort of normalization of understanding that the United States as a hegemon is not really in our best interest. You know, we are the we are the empire at this point, Pax Americana, and it's not working out super great. And we've really blown our relationship with all of the other global community members at this point. That's just a certain reality. Um, so I don't know. I think there's the initial impulse to have a diagnosis of what's happening, that there is a problem and we need to address it, but the road to take to get there is diametrically opposite to what I would imagine a significant portion of the country, people that are sort of backing the progressive candidates that are trying to move um into power right now, things that you see with the candidates out of New York City, and then the utter panic of sort of centrists to say, oh, we really need to we need to write this manifesto that that tells people that we're capitalist and we're not socialist, which is I think what Zoran Mamdani said about that was really funny. Um, the whole "gee, sounds pretty socialist to me to write a manifesto." That one kind of killed me. Um, very very good, uh, very good swipe. Um, but the establishment is pretty panicked about it, and I think that's a reasonable thing for them to feel at this particular moment in time. Very reasonable. The irony is, most important reason approve of Donald Trump handling versus most important reason disapprove of Donald Trump handling. You have foreign policy right up there, just right up there. I don't understand what they mean by incompetence at 11%. That's like that's sort of vague, and to me is demonstrative of how much brain rot Americans have, because they just say he's bad at it. Okay, what does that mean? To describe what incompetence means, I suppose. Like, demonstrate to us what being an incompetent person is. Describe it, be articulate. This is the problem with folks being so utterly illiterate, is that they're not capable of understanding the or describing and being able to translate a thought into words, what they mean when they say I disapprove of this. It's kind of fucking stupid. Um, even people I disagree, excuse me, even people I agree with are being stupid. I just, yeah, whatever. Um, Trump's handling of the economy. I mean, I don't know what to say about this, dude. The economy sucks. The economy just straight up sucks. You know, nobody can get a house. Nobody can get a rental. Nobody can afford their groceries. Gas prices are finally coming down, but they're not low enough. It's not affordable. People are still struggling to get to work and afford that. And it's not as though wage growth has gone up in a way that offsets that. If anything, we've had slower than normal wage growth. We've had bad jobs reports throughout the year. Even when they're good, they're still bad. So I say good when they're good. When they are showing improvement, they still remain terrible. That's not good for folks. It's not helpful. I don't. It's just exhausting. Um, I am sort of surprised to see the numbers on strongly disapprove be as low as they are. They should be higher. They should just they should be. It's not. Um, my attitude is that's not high enough. Oops. Let's see here. I just lost it. There we go. Sorry, I'm trying to get it so I can show you guys my cursor. It's a little easier to point to things when I do that. Um, yeah, that doesn't work for me. That needs to be higher. Somewhat disapprove. Again, I need. This is kind of why I hate polling, because it just really it's too general. You know what I mean? It's just way too general. It doesn't really drill down into the specifics or the nuance. And then, the counterpoint is that journalism is just so trash right now that there's not nobody's going out and doing what they need to provide the on the ground interview work that's necessary to be able to highlight where people are at. We sort of and that gets tough because you have just like a string of anecdotes. So what you need uh a mass sampling of people. You need to be able to aggregate those specific things, and I don't actually know that um academics, data collectors, people like that, I say data collectors, I don't mean like in the sense of uh you know like Zuck farming your your Facebook info or whatever, right? I mean, like professional journalists and analysts that are going out and actually doing like real reporting of sorts and then finding a way to meaningfully aggregate the nuance that exists. I think that's a huge deficit in our culture. I think that's a huge blind spot that we have because it remains this black box that people can't see into. So that's how you perpetuate any sense of like left, right, center. You put it on this sort of black and white grayscale spectrum that does not illustrate where people are at. It doesn't describe the um, three-dimensional charting or like stat distribution of what people's beliefs are and understand how and why they get there. So there's a huge portion of the American experience that we're not articulating, we're not describing to people. And I think that's pretty problematic because if we don't interact with that, then we don't have a way to get to a more comprehensive understanding of what's going on. So I'd like to, I personally am something I think about when I'm actually out in the world with my camera. It's something I like to try and think about. I'd love to be able to develop some kind of actual method to ask these questions. I mean, and maybe that requires speaking to some more sociologists and going down that road. Stuff to think about for me for the long-term growth of the channel and guests and things of that sort. But yeah, this I need to be able to see more into that right there, and this as well, like that that somewhat disapprove that needs to be more clear to me how that works. It's just not right now. This is a little bit more obvious. I think most people understand that you went to war with Iran, saying short-term pain for long-term gain. I don't know what the long-term gain is because Iran is walking out with more money on essentially the exact carbon copy of the JCPOA, except worse for the United States, which frankly, we we kind of need to own that, like, and that's that people might hate that take, but we decided to elect a guy who dismantled the JCPOA. We then decided to elect a guy who would not reinstate the JCPOA. And then we decided to re-elect the first guy who took apart the JCPOA, whose selfish egotism meant that he reinstated the JCPOA, but worse because he thought that Iran and Venezuela were the same fucking country somehow, and that it would just be as simple as that. It's sort of a brain rot at a very high level. And I don't really get too deep into the psychoanalysis of Donald Trump. I don't think that's really useful. I think that's uh psycho liberal blue MAGA blue sky bullshit that doesn't really do anything. The people that have spoken to me in separate spaces know that I actually hate blue sky. I think it's just as toxic as Twitter at this point, just in the other direction. Um, Fairly useless in my opinion. I know that's probably going to upset some people, but you're literally just preaching to a choir of folks that are already locked into exactly what they're going to do, and you're not going to change any minds on there. You're not going to develop any kind of traction. You're just shouting in the wind. So keep posting and thinking that your activism is doing something, but it's not. Um, it's just self-soothing. Anyways, yeah. So U.S. attack on Iran, right or wrong direction by party ID. Um, Overall 62 to 35 with 3% no opinion. Democrat, obviously 99%. No shocker there. What's funny about that is that that's measuring the constituents, not measuring the party. Significant portion of the elected officials in the party are 100% for Iran. So what that should tell you right there is that the Democrats are terrible at advocating for their own base. They do not listen to their own base. They do not deserve the support of their base. This might dovetail later into a different discussion that I'll have about a different article, but we'll get there when we get there. I don't want to spend too much time on this polling, but I do think it's sort of important to address. Yeah, so Democrat 99. The hilarious one is the independent polling, which puts independents at 85%. And this makes me think that there's a lot of people that now define as independents that were Democrats that left the Democrats because the Democrats were not actually representing labor and the left adequately. So I think that in the classic interpretation of independent voter as somebody who sits somewhere between the Republicans and the Democrats is maybe a misnomer these days. And in reality, what it actually means is that independents represent people that are further to the left or maybe socialist leaning who just genuinely fucking hate the Democrats because the Democrats have demonstrated over and over and over again on both the state and national level that they are fucking useless. They literally are utterly useless. And the only thing that they can say or do is say, we're not this, we don't like that, we hate that. If you're the party of complainers, if you're the party of like just real bitch shit, then don't be surprised when everybody picks up their toys and leaves. That's your own hole that you dug. Sorry. You can sit there and scream and cry and be immature about it, but you're losing your grip on power. And the only concern is that they do have money. So and they will use that and leverage that against any left-wing effort to make progress or reform the party. And that's going to be the biggest problem that I think the left has as they try to perform an act of entryism into the Democrats. That's what we need to watch is the leverage against the left. I think there were again, to go back to what just happened in New York, really well demonstrates that there's a possibility for that, but that's New York. That's not rural America. I do think that there's a way to port some of that out, but it requires the effort of national leftists with platforms to seek out and identify opportunities that they might be a little bit weaker on, right? We're in a weird position right now where we're I think a good example would be when everybody wanted Zoran to back Chiose against Hakeem Jeffries, and Zoran was like, "No, I'm not doing that." Right? And everybody's like, "What the fuck, man? Like you said you were going to back people, right?" But then he turns around and he backs Claire Valdez, Daria Liza Avila Chevalier, and Brad Lander. Now we can set aside Brad Lander for a second because, like, liberal Zionist, he was like that was granted from the start. Claire Valdez is awesome because of her union leadership, her participation in the New York State Assembly. All that is great. The one that really matters though is Daria Liza, right? And the reason that matters is because there was sort of baggage with her, right? The whole everybody loves harping on the fuck Kamala Harris tweet, which I think is just funny, right? Like I don't think that is going to dissuade anybody. But that was a really tight race, and everybody thought that was not going to happen. Even the people that were supporting her were like, "Yeah, this is a long shot, right?" But it wasn't. She won, and then there was a moment after she won where they put Hakeem Jeffries' face on a screen during a celebration, and DSA shouted, "You're next." And this is what's important: is that you need to build power, right? I believe is in chapter 3 of The Art of War. Sun Tzu is talking about how you can't just go after the walled city, right? You need to build your networks, which takes about 3 months, and you need to build the mounds to scale the walls, which takes another 3 months. And that's what organizing for Claire and Daria Liza was. Winning them is then the opportunity to build the mounds. So you need to get those seats of power before you're able to scale the walled city that is Hakeem Jeffries. I hope this analogy makes sense to people. But this has to be approached from a like battle strategy perspective, right? There's not really a whole lot of room for feelings in this right now. We need to focus on winning. We need to focus on building coalition. We need to focus on actually saying things that matter to people who are struggling. And that does very much so apply to the state of New Hampshire. When you're talking about that report that came out through New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute, where they're talking about how median house available house on the market is somewhere in the thousand range. I think it was like 537,000 or something like that, which means that if you want to be able to buy a home in the state of New Hampshire, on average, you need to be making somewhere around 132 to 135,000 a year, which is, um, you know, 30-ish thousand more. If it's 32, it will say it's 132,000. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I didn't pull that article up, so I'm not able to pull those specific numbers for you guys right now. I'm sorry, my brain just is fried because I've been dealing with a bunch of shit. But if I remember correctly, if you say 132,000 is what you need, that's 33,000 greater than what the median income in the state of New Hampshire is. So that means that over half of the state is completely barred from being able to own a home. Now, home ownership counts for something like 70+% of like housing in the state of New Hampshire. So when you're barring over 50% of the state from entering a type of housing that is consumed by 70% of the state, you are creating a recipe for the state to perish, right? Or conversely, what you're doing is you are creating an opportunity for the state to, you know, further deepen its role as a tax haven for wealthy people, which economically will ultimately cause the state to demise anyways, because as you run out of lower income or middle income people that are working service jobs, the stores that need to be open to provide basic services and commodities for people to survive in the state will go out of business because they cannot employ the people that they need in order to maintain business. So the state just becomes one big retirement home, and then the handful of places where you do see available products, those prices will skyrocket, and soon this place is going to be as expensive as fucking Alaska. So, good luck with that. Anyways, big long tangent there. This is just more nonsense about Iran. It, again, I like how the vast majority of people say the US and Iran will not have reached a final peace agreement and will be fighting again. This is just because everybody knows that nothing ever happens, right? It's all just ridiculous. I had somebody ask me recently, a friend was like, what do you think is going to happen with all of this stuff? And I was like, ask me again in 3 months, dude. I don't know. Like, it changes every day, right? There's no point in trying to read the tea leaves on this shit when it's it is just the whims of a person in charge who is self-aggrandizing and then simultaneously only believes whatever the last person in the room told him, usually his, you know, multi-generation younger than him blonde aide that just sneaks little notes into his paperwork that says you're doing a great job and you're the alpha, and like, lib fodder. But there is a certain amount of like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is really where we're at, guys. This is truly idiocracy. Uh, what it is. That's fine. This is so dumb, man. This is a riot. Support or oppose restarting military attacks on Iran in no nuclear deal. Um, even even with Republicans, only 41% strongly agree. That's sad, man. That's fucking sad. Like, how you gonna what are we doing, guys? Like, this is this to me really demonstrates how ineffective our elected officials are, right? And like, if you want to talk about it on the national scale, although I do think this applies on the state level as well. Um, and something I kind of have been thinking about with the channel is that I'd like to be able to expand it beyond just the state of New Hampshire. I'd like to be able to talk about New England as a whole. So I'm going to try and do some work to get like more information and coverage on states like Vermont and Maine. We'll start out there. Massachusetts is totally a different beast, but I do think it's probably worth spending some time on Massachusetts, not just because there's audience there that I could be getting, but also because I think it's worth examining sort of the weird uh, friction between Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Um, I think that's worth exploring. I probably need to figure out how to make some inroads with that state and get folks from down there that are more politically active and engaged to be able to come on here and discuss this. So things that I'm thinking about long term, because I think looking at New England as a whole region is probably a healthy thing for us to do. It's very important to be covering New Hampshire and sort of the more rural northern aspects of uh of the region. You know, I think it's probably really important to take some time to discuss the lack of healthcare availability in Vermont. That's that's super super huge. One of the biggest obstacles that people have in Vermont is how far away medical access is to them and how much of Vermont actually relies on New Hampshire's medical infrastructure to be able to get care, right? You know, if you're in Brattleboro, a lot of people will be kicking it over to Cheshire Medical Center. If you're a little further up, you're going to Lebanon, you're going to Dartmouth Hitchcock, right? So there's a lot of you can see economic uh connections there between those states, right? That's something that's relevant, and I think it's really worth exploring. I know my co-host on News Dive Weekly, Kyle, he spends a lot of time and sort of engaged with Brattleboro specifically. I know he's sort of got like a key op over there. The what's his name? Hank. Is like a weird conservative dude that has a lot of ties with local police, and you go watch Kyle's content for that stuff. That's definitely something to engage with. At any rate, moving on. I guess last final thoughts on this is just that nobody fucking likes this. Nobody fucking likes this at all. This right here, this blue stack on Republican, that's such a bad look, dude. That's such a bad look. It's completely supporting the 19 and 12% to max out at 31% for support of what we're doing over there. That's insane, man. When you've got 63% of the country, or well, in this case of the state, but when you've got 63%, this is New Hampshire. This is the most conservative state in New England. I know that we compete with Maine for that title, but really, um, this, at least in this polling data, we're the most conservative sample, and for it to be 63% in the most conservative space, that should tell you something. That should really tell you something. That's a point of leverage. That's a point of commonality that you can find with your opposition. That's a way to leverage, right? So you're out, you're talking to your conservative buddy at the bar or something like that, run into him at a coffee shop or the supermarket. This is seek the common ground. Build the common ground. Don't focus on what you disagree with. Focus on what you agree with, and this is probably one of them, right? Um okay. Right direction or wrong track. I mean, this is just demonstrating conservative brain rot. Yeah, like that's not you know. The one that I think is just really funny here, really, really funny, is the utter nosedive on independence. Going from, I mean, we're not, you know, we're looking at like near 40% at the beginning of 2026 down to 7%. That's cooked, dude. That's really bad. That's really bad, man. You really blew it. So I would imagine that the conservatives understand that they're losing serious ground. So the best thing that they can do is just like just tighten it and just try and get through as much of the stuff that they need to do to make themselves feel better and sort of codify their values so that the next person, the next majority that's in their opposition has to spend all of their time undoing damage and can't actually do anything productive for anybody, so that we can repeat the same exact process that we've been repeating for 30 plus years now, which is Democrats come in and do everything that they can to fix the serious smashing that the Republicans did. And then when the temperature flips, because usually the party that's in power is the one that gets voted out, that we just return this sort of gradual slide down the hill into becoming a third world country. And that's just that's what we're looking at. So cool, sweet. Um, let's just continue to ignore where people are at. That's fine. Yeah. And here you go. I mean, it's like in general, every single time New Hampshire is basically, you know, peak. Um, Rhode Island does seem to beat us on support U.S. Restarting military attacks on Iran, no nuclear deal. That's funny. Rhode Island definitely has its moments of insane conservatism, which is just a riot. So funny. Love you, Rhode Island. Don't ever change, or maybe do. That would be preferable. But it's okay. We're all a little bit special, and we all want to get into a fight. That's fine. Yeah, but this is just, I really just want to remind everybody, Maine is excluded from this, but presidential approval is the highest in the state of New Hampshire. Disapproval is the lowest. Um, handling of the economy, again, highest. 41% is madness, utter madness. Thank you, Free State Project, for just importing a whole bunch of fucking morons that don't understand how economics work. Lovely. Handling of foreign affairs. We are definitely competing with Connecticut a little bit there on the approval and disapproval for that matter. Rhode Island not far behind. Vermont and Massachusetts, obviously the winners. They're much more tuned to what we're doing, even though everybody says they hate Massachusetts, which is a riot because what we're doing right now is creating opportunities for a bunch of Boston-based businesses to be buying up local businesses, and they are going to be turning this into the wealthy city dweller vacation spot. So when Kelly Ayotte says don't mass up New Hampshire, she's full of shit, and this is what's actually happening. Totally fine to mass up New Hampshire, just in a way that fucks over the people that have been in the state forever. Love it. Cool. Wonderful. Yeah. So let's move on to a different thing. We've kind of covered this. I sort of one final addendum on this particular topic is that I was speaking to somebody who actually participated in this poll, and this particular thing, they switched from to like overemphasizing emails as opposed to texts. Apparently, they usually do 3 emails. This time they never got the third email with acknowledgement of when it ended. I think there's just general frustration that there's literally no engagement. To go back to the very top of this, there's just huge frustration for people that nobody's talking about the races, and most prominently CD1. I think the reason that there's a lot of emphasis on CD1, this is really, really, really fucking important, guys, is that when we're talking about dealing with CD1, the reason that is so lasered in on is because it's an open race. It's an open seat, right? And there's a pretty high likelihood that the control definitely stays blue on that. I think just in terms of like the broader climate right now, and you're talking about, blue wave, red mirage, whatever. But I do think that there's a lot to be said for the focus on the Democratic side of things in the CD1 race, especially because it's sort of there's a bunch of different people running, and it's very much so a battleground for what it means to be successful in the state. There's a lot of weird associations with endorsement processes and alignment with this sort of state political institutions, whether you're talking about sort of the Manchester NHDP people, or you're talking about more progressive caucus aligned people, and what are their actual interests, what are they actually thinking, where do they stand, so on and so forth. um that's that's going to be painting a picture for everybody. And I think it's good for folks to take a step back and look at the CD1 race, right? Like, I'm not in CD1, so I can't necessarily, I don't, I've said this time and time again that I don't necessarily have a horse in that race, aside from the fact that the delegation that we send to Congress is going to paint a picture to the rest of the country as to what New Hampshire folks believe. So whether or not I like it, the way Chris Pappas behaves currently in Congress does reflect on me as somebody who lives in New Hampshire. People will not make the distinction that I didn't have the power to vote for Chris Pappas. I didn't get any say in him. You know what I mean? But if you're from fucking Kansas and you're looking at at New Hampshire, they're not separating like the congressional districts between it. It's you talk about things in whole, you talk about things generally, right? So I have to accept the fact that whether I voted for him or not, because I live in New Hampshire, Chris Pappas represents New Hampshire, and I got to eat that. So that's why I maintain a focus very specifically on CD1, because that is the best opportunity for us to define potential forward moving identity for the Democratic Party in the state. It makes it, if there's a progressive or left wing win in that particular race, it makes it a little easier. And again, I support Paige Boschman in her race against Maggie Goodlander 110%. Totally do it. I have to admit that there is a certain amount of political reality that it is much harder to unseat an incumbent than it is to win in an open primary. That's just real. That's just a political fact, right? So that battle is more uphill just inherently, and that's not me being critical or pessimistic. It's just accepting reality. So yeah, that can cause some hurt feelings for people. But if we're switching over a little bit, we can talk about the Senate race stuff. One of my favorites, Aaron Day. Love Aaron Day because while I completely disagree with just about every single thing the guy says, he is a fantastic spoiler candidate. He's really great. And this piece on NHPR, NH Ballot Law Commission rejects independent's appeal to run for U.S. Senate. He should be able to run for U.S. Senate. He should absolutely be able to do that. I believe in more options available than the two-party system. I think that's harmful to us. Again, this is something we'll get to a little later because I have other materials to go over. But the New Hampshire Ballot Law Commission voted Monday to uphold Secretary of State David Scanlon's decision to block Aaron Day from filing as an independent U.S. Senate candidate because Day is not registered to vote where he lives. Well, yeah, then you should probably be registered to vote where you live, dude. I don't. Everybody hates carpetbaggers, right? That's fine. He was undeterred by the 4-1 vote against him and ready to ramp up a separate legal challenge to Scanlon in federal court. I didn't come here with huge expectations. That this was going to be a win, Day said after the Ballot Law Commission decision. This is just a stepping stone, which is why I already have a temporary restraining order drafted, and we will deliver it tomorrow. Day was referring to a separate challenge to Scanlon's rejection of his campaign that he filed earlier this month in the U.S. District Court. He said he'll argue it's unconstitutional to bar him from running in a federal election based on state law requiring he be registered to vote where he lives because qualifications for U.S. Senate candidates are set by the U.S. Constitution. I think we have a very good shot at winning on the Constitution. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of fuckery happening with the Constitution right now. A lot of disregard for it. I know libertarians love to stick to it, but at the same time, they support candidates don't love to stick to it. So you guys want to maybe sort out some of that cognitive dissonance right there. Not necessarily something that I have skin in the game on, but would be smart to do. Just get your fucking ducks in a row. Not that hard, but maybe it is because you guys can't agree at all on even what kind of pie you prefer, whether you would like apple or blueberry. So sucks to suck, maybe get a little bit better. Let's see here. You know, generally speaking, part of the reason I'm sort of okay with Aaron Day is that I don't actually believe that the libertarians are going to be capable themselves in their own right or track to be able to garner enough votes to meaningfully step into creating a third party that's viable. They lose consistently throughout the entire country. They've never won a single fucking race. Jeremy Kauffman criticizes them for this all the time, and that's why the libertarians in New Hampshire tend to just push themselves into the Republican Party because that's the way that they're able to get the most success. And honestly, like the libertarian capture of the Republican Party in the state of New Hampshire is a perfect demonstration of how entryism is effective, right? It's our opposition. It sucks, but it does demonstrate. It does 100% demonstrate. And if you are not paying attention to your enemy, if you are not learning from your enemy, then you are going to lose your battles. Again, going back to Sun Tzu. So anyways, this is just a funny little tidbit that I thought I would bring up for folks. And speaking of third parties, there was an article that was published on the Concord Monitor, and this is about John Kuiper and him doing his bid for the governorship as a third party candidate. I think this is quite entertaining. Sorry, I'm just trying to rearrange this in the screen a little bit so that you guys can see this better as we go through it. What is interesting about this is that I was actually quoted in this. I had been reached out for an interview. I was very curious to see what was going to happen because that interview lasted about 20 minutes. I said a whole lot of things. And I was very curious to see which sentences were going to get pulled for this article, right? Let's see here. Oh, they want me to log in to continue reading. That's awesome. Now I have to strip this. Okay, give me a second, folks. We're gonna have to just do I'm gonna have to de-paywall the thing. I guess I ain't got no chatters right now, which is a little sad. Because I would just do some chat discussion with folks. I think that would be kind of fun and nice. So if I see that there's somebody in here, if you're in here, have a conversation with me while I sort all this out. While I strip this of its paywall, and we are able to continue on with the program. I'm just going to hide that really quick while I get the paywall off this. I guess I don't know, man. Maybe I put some music back on so that it's not just dead fucking silence. That would probably be a good thing. Yeah, here we'll throw a little jam on for you guys. Keep the tunes running. For anybody that doesn't know, I am also a music producer. It's a huge portion of my life and the efforts that I have put into developing. All the music on this channel is indeed created by this guy right here. So yeah, worth checking out if you're interested, and if you join the Patreon. You will get access to all of the music and soundtracking that I use for this channel. So definitely worth doing. Let's see here. I think I got the paywall stripped, so we are going to be able to get back into it. All right, so here we go. So basically, this article is talking about the general concern that people have about John Kuiper, and just sort of what he's doing, what he's going for. Kuiper ran for governor in 2024. His hometown, Stronghold, Newmarket, was the only place where he beat Democrat opponents Cindy Warmington and Joyce Craig, and fellow residents generally like his focus on housing, property taxes, and education issues. That's going to be important. They see him as a man of the people. He walks the streets, and he doesn't walk it in a pair of pleated pants or a collared shirt. So Bob Downing, who's lived in the town for 36 years, he sat at an outdoor table eating ice cream with his wife Nancy. Oh, wonderful slice of life stuff. Great. This dude, give me the facts. Come on. Since when is journalism getting more blogger? Let's focus. Lock in, please. Kuiper's making a second bid for office, this time as an independent. He's trying to launch a party, which comes up later. I think this is important. This is really important. This was something that I tried to focus on later on. The success of the third party is not always winning. It is often in just moving the conversation without some group threatening to leave the coalition. They, the Democrats, will just become more and more conservative and more to the center. He is right. He is right. And I appreciate, I just criticized the article a little bit, but what I do appreciate is that there's time taken to identify the they, right? When you say they, when you're talking about they as a general group of people, that makes it seem very much us and them, right? That contributes to polarizing things. That's not productive. We need to be able to specifically identify groups that are not helping us, and we need to articulate that so we are able to remove it. We need to understand that we are all Americans. We all work together. This is a collaborative effort between every single person in this fucking country. Shit's important, dude. And we need to be advocating for the working class. And enter the political scientists that are going to perpetuate the same fucking bullshit. I'm not saying that Dante Scala is bullshit. Would love to have him on as an interview guest. Sounds like a great idea. I will reach out because I think it's probably important to interact with the academic sphere when it comes to this stuff. Okay, so he's basically talking about the signatures he needs in order to face Ayotte and Warmington in the general. Says that's tougher to I guess this isn't in quotes, so I guess it's a paraphrase. But that's a tough hurdle to clear with virtually no name recognition, said Dante Scala, a political science professor at the University of New Hampshire, even with relatively unpopular opponents. He said, running without the backing of a major party requires a great deal of fundraising and advertising. That is true. Quote, going the independent route, it's a lot. Even in a small state, there's just a lot of hurdles, and I don't think the hurdles get lower over time. Also not wrong. Kuiper, who closed his restaurant last year amid soaring costs, said his life partner is financially supporting him while he focuses on the campaign full time. He raised just under $50,000, but is operating $32,000 in the red due to an outstanding loan, according to campaign finance records. That's tough, man. That's fucking tough. My heart goes out to him. That's really hard. And the money thing really sucks. The money aspect of things is a serious barrier. This is what keeps politics in New Hampshire very elite. It's what prevents the working class from being able to enter into the space. And it is what the sort of more elite or wealthy class of politicians that have law money, doctor money, investment money, this is the way that they discredit working class candidates. This is the way that they will say that having money equals success, or having money means being smart or being legitimate, right? Like, you're not legitimate if you don't have money. And I think just a lot of folks don't believe that, right? That there's more to life than money. But that's not the American way. That's not capitalism, right? And the Democrats are already going down that road when they say we are capitalists, we are not socialists. So believe them when they tell you that. Without a ton of money and insider connections, it's just really hard, said Kuiper. And he's right. He's right. I think that's the thing when I talk about media literacy for folks, is that there's a lot of like genuinely true factual stuff in these articles, but the problem is people don't know how to analyze it correctly, right? Like that's usually my issue, right? And that can actually just be equally demonstrated by the extent to which people will you can have like the left and the right, whatever, You can have people that identify as left, or you can have people that identify as right. Look at a problem and diagnose the problem correctly, right? They can say, okay, this is an issue. Like we have a wealthy elite that is taking advantage of the lower classes, right? That's sort of like a ubiquitous understanding, right? The left will say, well, what we need to do is we need to tax them more, right? We need to be capturing their tax revenue, and we need to be reinvesting that through government programs into subsidy and redistributing it. We need to do taxes are a method of wealth distribution, right? So that's the leftist argument. The conservative argument is no, we need to deregulate more. We need to basically minimize the role of government because the free market will necessarily spread that out because it'll the market knows best or whatever, right? So you have two very like divergent um prescriptions based off of the diagnosis or the sort of and it creates a very different prognosis. um Everybody knows where I stand, or at least I would fucking hope so at this point in time. That uh that when you do the free market, the impulse of a business is to beat out your competitors, right? And if that's happening on long scale, then what you end up with is monopolies. And once you have a monopoly anyways, then you've basically recreated exactly the same problem that the government presents, except you have no democratic power to engage in controlling that monopoly, right? You have no way to vote against it, right? Like that's not so that's just generally from my perspective exactly what debunks that argument. But I guess that's good luck having that debate with a libertarian. um so let's jump to this. Yeah, so I think this was funny. Start talking about progressive inroads. Where being lumped in with libertarians under the independent label, Kuiper is running on what he calls the Community First Party, aims to build an economy that supports the working class directly, he said, rather than trickle-down economics. Love it. Communists love it. Socialists love it. Let's go fucking go. The platform centers on fixing what he sees as a fundamental problem in New Hampshire. We don't have enough money. True. He said he wants to bring back the interest and dividends tax slashed by Republicans a few years ago and build other streams of revenue by taxing second homes. Love the idea establishing a recreational cannabis industry in the state. Good luck with that. I have very much so been vocal about how I think that's not necessarily going to help that much because you were talking about oh, what's up, Pat? Thank you. How you doing, brother? Basically, I you are talking about generating like a few million when you legalize in the state. That doesn't compete with like the billions you need in order to actually make real fucking change. Never mind the fact that you are competing with Massachusetts, who has a 10-year jump start on us. They have an incredibly competitive industry in there. So if you actually if you legalize in the state of New Hampshire, the real reasons you're doing it is because you want people to be able to grow it in their yard. You want people to just have the right to like produce it themselves. And you want to remove the criminality from the equation. You want to you're doing it on like a social justice thing, right? Like you shouldn't be having people in prison for extended periods of time for fucking having marijuana. That's fucking ridiculous, right? It's like probably on the same level as alcohol in terms of you're just like it's something that's bad, right? And this goes back to sort of the federal banning of hemp, and that was more so tied to paper being the paper mill industry being crushed by the potential ability of hemp to totally destroy them, and there's a lot of history there. And it's part of the reason why hemp is legal, part of the reason why it's a Schedule I drug. Again, racism, institutionalized racism, hating black people, whatever, get into redlining. Everything's fucking connected. We should be aware of all this shit at this point. It's not really, you're opening up a whole fucking can of worms when you try to talk about that shit. So I don't know what the point is. I don't have enough time today to deal with that. But we can get to the part where I get quoted, which is fucking hilarious. He's made some headway in the NH Talk corner of the internet. Let's go NH Talk. Everybody knows NH Talk is sort of the decentralized counter to a lot of the insanity that's happening in the state. It's a good social media movement. I support it. I support you supporting it. Everybody get into it. Go fuck with it on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or here on YouTube, whatever makes the most fucking sense for you, because it's good people. And it's a broad coalition. We do actually have some libertarians that have decided to part ways with the Free State movement and come join our side because they realize that working with leftists is actually going to get them closer to their goals than working with the insane libertarians. Fucking funny. So at any rate, I don't necessarily like have a huge problem with what I got quoted on here. I'll get into it. So he's made some headway in the NH Talk corner of the internet, a home for Granite State progressives like Carter Hammond, a carpenter from Peterborough who posts interviews and commentary about local politics online. Love this. She did not mention my channel name. I think that's hilarious. They're afraid of promoting me. That's funny. Kuiper's message of a community first party strikes a chord for Hammond. Yeah, kinda. Quote, in a lot of ways, he says and works on a lot of things that a lot of people in the state have been wishing that people would openly discuss for years and years, but that doesn't necessarily line up with a lot of the more traditional political interests of either party. True. Stand by that statement, 10 toes down. I understand his impulse to create the community first party. Yeah, hell yeah. And I've said this to people before. I'm like, look, like I'm all of the above, right? 100% all of the above. You should do everything, right? You don't chide the DSA and people that are trying to engage in entryism to recapture the Democratic Party. I think it's a great idea. Totally support it because it's sort of one of the only options we have right now. At the same time, if you're not doing what you need to build mutual aid networks to sort of create a parallel system that people can rely on, which also act as organizing networks, which allow ways to, either set up a parallel party structure that could win if you're able to, in a grassroots way, develop a lot of interest and passion to vote for a third party candidate, fucking awesome. Or you can then parlay all those same connections into rebuilding the entryist argument, right? And one of the biggest critiques that I have in New Hampshire is the ways in which it's very, very difficult for the sort of disparate progressive organizations to actually be able to work together with each other. I think high school drama bullshit tends to get in the way a lot. Everybody gets all up in their fucking feelings about it. Nobody knows how to treat this like fucking business. Nobody knows how to stand on business when it comes to it, and I get really fucking annoyed with it. I think there's some old heads in the state that understand this. They understand how to work with it, but then again, some of the old heads get really, really fucking butthurt when you just disagree with them on one particular issue, even though you stand with them fucking like steel when it comes to other issues. And I've experienced this recently. Don't want to get too into that. Check out my videos on Arusha if you want to understand more of what I'm talking about. Furthermore, in a state where candidates campaign on opposing taxes, Hammond appreciates the Kuiper is offering solutions. Quote, typically their response is no new taxes, and they'll tell you what they won't do. John is actually trying to say, here's what we will do, Hammond said, and I think that's something that's really respectable. Goddamn straight. I am so fucking tired of people saying that my argument is I don't like them, or I won't do this to you. Okay, what the fuck will you do? Maintain the status quo? Shut the fuck up. Get out of my way. You're not doing anything. You're not useful to any of us. Literally fucking pointless. I don't need another James Carville. Can't wait. Can't wait until we don't have to hear him on the news anymore. Dear Lord, what are we doing? My God. Like, it's useless. It's fucking useless. It doesn't do anything for us. And like, I just want you guys to know that I am trying desperately. I am trying desperately to get Cindy Warmington to come on this channel for an interview. I want nothing more than that. I would love to speak with her because I would love her to actually try and like address some of the issues that she's got going on right now. I would love her to actually make a real case on what she will do. Because right now I don't really hear much other than like, oh, I'm going to create a moratorium on data centers. Okay, why don't you pick not even just low-hanging fruit that's sitting on the ground rotting and hand it to us? You think that's a fucking good solution? You think that's a good strategy? okay, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anybody's necessarily going to argue with you as long as there's not any brown spots on that apple or peach. But yeah, you might need to do a little bit more when people are losing their homes. Generational families are being put out of the state when your major export is young talent and your major import is uh, generational institutionalized wealth from the states that you hate the most, like New York City, New Jersey, and and Massachusetts, most specifically, wealthy hedge fund managers and people that are into marketing or investment from Boston. So yeah, again, sort of loops back around to the don't mass up New Hampshire thing. Fucking cool, exhausting though. Yeah, so that was me getting quoted a little bit in the Concord Monitor. Generally speaking, there's just a shit ton of skepticism for Kuiper. I would like to see him be able to make it on the ballot just because, like, from my calculation, ain't no way Cindy Warmington's beating Kelly. I'm sorry, dude. I just don't see it right now. You can have a governor that has even worse ratings than Craig Benson did and still fucking win because that's how fucking stupid we are right now. That's how dumb we are. Everybody needs to wake up. I literally had somebody say that he supports Kelly Ayotte because she kicked back at Maura Healey for saying live free and dumb. And he thought Kelly Ayotte was like badass for snapping back at that. And it's like, brother, you just complained to me 20 minutes ago about how your property taxes are too high and it's bullshit. And a huge part of the reason that's the case is because the governor that you're sitting over here standing on fucking just optics issues and posturing is actually fucking you over. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Um, like I don't get it, man. I don't understand the I just simply do not understand what we're doing right now. I would love something better than this, but we are not there. We simply are not there, and I don't know when we will ever be there. It all depends on whether or not the Democratic Party decides to actually go like, you know what, we're not going to fight our left wing for once in our fucking lives. We're actually going to work with them. Okay, so and you know, I just want to say to bounce back to the just for a minute to bounce back to oh, meanwhile AI spending cash from ads and ad trucks and NYC post election. Yeah, exactly, dude. Pat's fucking on the money right here. This is what I'm saying. Like, she's like, oh, I don't want to mass up New Hampshire, but what I want to do is I want to bring in fucking New York investors. That's because that's not doing exactly the fucking problem. Like, what are we doing, dude? It's so dumb. It's so fucking brain rotted. Like, give me a break. Give me a fucking break. Like, this is so dumb. This is so stupid. And I just wish that people would I just really wish people would fucking lock in. Really do. Um it might be asking too much right now though, because literacy rates in this country are terrible. So anyways, yeah, I just want to go over this really quick. This is just 2026 primary elections by state and territory. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because something that I hear candidates say, like you'll have candidates that'll and people around candidates that will be like, well, why isn't, you know, like, why isn't the national left engaging with us more? Why aren't they working with us more? Why isn't there more more engagement with this race? We really need the help, you know. And I understand the concern there, right? I understand the general concern that people have with not getting not getting the national support to raise attention, which would help candidates that are sort of trying to do the grassroots thing more get a springboard, right? They'll see people show up on Hassan's stream and they'll be like, damn, you just had a candidate in Florida fighting a really tough race, raise a, you know, $50,000 or something like that in a fucking hour. Like, that's real money that people need in order to operate. And it's like, well, why don't we get that in New Hampshire? And it's like, because New Hampshire is not like it is very much so directly related to A, when our primary happens, and B, because I don't think progressives really identify New Hampshire as a space where they're actually capable of like genuinely gaining ground right now. That's a fucking hard pill to swallow. It's a super hard pill to swallow, but it's just real shit, right? So if I just fucking control find on August right now, you'll literally notice that's fucking 17. 17 state primaries happening in August, right? If I jump that to September, you got 4. Delaware on the 15th, Rhode Island on the 9th, Massachusetts on the 1st, New Hampshire on the 8th. So ours is like literally the day before Rhode Island. You got Massachusetts, one of the fucking bluest states in the nation, going right before us. We can probably exclude Delaware. Nobody's going to fucking go after Delaware because it's like corporate haven insanity, right? And they're the ones that are like saying that corporations should be able to vote in local elections. So I'm pretty sure that's a lost cause for the left right now. But yeah, talking about Massachusetts, that's actually a place where major sort of left-wing outlets or social media personalities like say Majority Report or Hassan Piker, that's their attention is going to be on a place like Massachusetts where there's like a perceivable path to win. New Hampshire doesn't necessarily become that appealing until much later in the process, even if we have a wide open primary race that's sort of contentious and has the ability to create an inroad for progressive candidates. That's real shit that just like it's again uncomfortable truth that needs to be sat with, right? That's real. So I point this out just to help everybody sort of temper their expectations. If you genuinely want that to be different, then we need people to be doing things like joining the digital spaces that that these creators operate in. You need to like if you want Majority Report to interview somebody like Keith Howard, spam that fucking Majority Reporter's inbox with like, please interview Heath Howard, interview Heath Howard, interview Heath Howard. If they get like a plethora of emails in their inbox, so it's so fucking loud and not just Ramona Frankenstein IMing the fucking chat or calling in and saying, hey, please, can you guys like pay attention to this race? That's going to get Brian to actually fucking like open the email and present it to Sam and Emma in a packet and say like, and Matt and be like, we should probably talk about this, right? And it may very well come up when we get closer to August. Like I definitely think that's real shit. But like, look, dude, like if you guys, I need everybody to sort of lock in on like what actual organizing is. And like, I ain't going to be a bitch, right? I'm going to actually sit here and fucking do online organizing. I will like explain to you what I think you need to do in order to make shit happen. But we need to like consolidate that effort, right? We need to actually like center the fucking goal, right? This isn't just like we can sit here and pie in the sky the idea of like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we sent a bunch of emails? We got to like, no, dude, just fucking send the emails. I already did. I sent those emails. I certainly did. I fucking joined the Hassan Discord just so that I can try and find a way right now. Not that I don't necessarily appreciate being in the Discord. It's nice to be able to monitor things, but like I joined that Discord specifically because I want to try and get people to entertain the idea of interviewing a candidate like Heath. I would love to see Heath appear on Hassan. I would love that more than anything because I know that they're struggling. And we already like, dude, it's the 30th. Okay. They're not going to report on campaign earnings after the 1st of July. That's part of the reason there's panic from the campaigns about seeing polling data come out prior to the 1st. Right. And that's why there's sort of a general attitude from campaigns saying like they're fucking putting their thumb on the scale in order to aid institutional candidates like Maura Sullivan or Stephanie Shaheen most prominently, because they're the ones with and Christian Arusha, people who have the biggest numbers already in the bank, that they don't have to fucking talk about it after the 1st. Right. And we may find when the polling data comes out for CD1 that Heath Howard is like number 2 or number 3 in terms of support when people talk about how much they like him, but it's going to be too late. And it's going to be incumbent upon us. Like, dude, look, I'm reading you guys right now. Kyle's in the chat. Adam Mulholland's in the chat. We're going to be the ones that have to fucking explain to people. We are the ones that are gonna have to be on blast telling everybody about money that comes into Heath's campaign because ain't nobody else gonna fucking do it. That's just true. That's just true. We're gonna be the ones that have to fucking fill that space. It's rough. It's rough, but like we gotta be solid for our fucking our team. It's just how it's gonna be. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry that like we can't count on the system to work for us. And maybe this look, maybe this is different in 2028 after they've moved our primary into June, right? Maybe that's for the benefit. I don't know. I can tell you that right now we are sort of getting shafted by the fact that we don't have our primary until September because it means that a significant portion of the country just is like not going to pay attention to us during like a heated primary season because they've got fucking Abdul Al Sayed to pay attention to. They've got people like Graham Plattner to pay attention to. They've got people like Milot Kuros to pay attention to. They've got people like Daria Liza. They've got people like Claire Valdez. They've got Brad Lander. Like you've got all these other fucking races that are happening that like are going to draw a lot more attention. And there's only so much attention that can be occupied by the people that are sort of like in the ear of creators like Hassan Piker or in the ears of Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report, these platforms that are actually able to get out there. And Kyle has a good point on here that Paige was able to appear on TYT. She did get interviewed by Cenk Uygur, and I think that's like great shit, right? That was a good moment. I read the chat when that was happening. That sucked. I was pretty disappointed in the way people were reacting to that. Can't do much about it, but it's like I think it's like it's good. We need that kind of visibility. We do need that kind of visibility, but we have to find actual pathways to it. So we as a community need to leverage our connections, and we need to be building connections on the back end to be able to create channels that get people this coverage, right? And I will certainly be trying to leverage anything that I've got on my end to do exactly that, right? It's not just simply about me like doing this content and trying to grow my shit. This is literally like an attempt to create a networking opportunity and a megaphone to push people forward. So, I mean, yeah, like and Adam makes a good point that like no one outside New Hampshire thinks we have a shot at electing progressives. That would be one of the biggest upsets in the U.S. And that's 100% right. That is 100% right. And I mean, I think that's a two-way street, right? If you were able to convince people to spend some time talking about a candidate like Heath Howard, do some fundraising for Heath Howard. It would allow Heath to be a lot more competitive in that CD1 race because he's getting the all press is good press treatment when he has J Street attacking him. You know what I mean? Like that helps him. That raises his profile. And the dude's got like tens of thousands of followers on social media. So it's not like he doesn't have an audience that can be leveraged, but it's still restrained, right? And it's not nationalized, right? And in order for a more socialist movement to work, it has to be national. You need that support from outside areas because when you're talking about sort of a battleground zone like New Hampshire that's very purple, you really need that contention. You know what I mean? You need that outside support to come in because it helps people gain awareness, right? How many people in New Hampshire are just so fucking tied up working shit ass jobs all goddamn day every day, and they're not like they want to listen to music, they don't want to fucking listen to political podcasts all day. Those are the people you got to figure out a way to reach, right? And so if you're able to create viral moments for them, if you're able to create buzz, then that actually makes it easier to reach those people that will like maybe tune in to Hassan's stream for like 30 to 45 minutes while they're doing dishes and making dinner. You know what I mean? If you can hit that fucking moment, if you can just make it work, right? If you can get that to happen and then that gets clipped out and that gets posted on YouTube, it gets posted on Instagram, it gets posted on TikTok, that creates viral moments, that gets people to fucking support, that gets people to phone bank, that gets people to knock on doors. And that's what we need. Let's see, what's Kyle saying? We need to be a place that's not overlooked until the presidential election. Sick of seeing campaigns acting like there's no primary. Yeah, 100%, dude. I mean, like we did, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like, and that's a critique that I've been trying to levy at the institutional media in the state for a hot fucking minute is that they basically just like they'll just sit there and speak like, oh yeah, Chris Sununu and Johnny Sununu and Chris Pappas are going to be duking it out, and it's like, oh yeah, whatever happened to fucking Scott Brown and Karishma Manzoor, huh? Did we ever think about that? No, we don't pretend that they even exist. Fucking wild shit. Let's see. Adam's saying Heath almost had a moment with Gene Sheen, and he has connections like Maxwell Frost, David Hogg, etc. He just hasn't had his moment. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I mean, like again, like I think this goes back to those people like David Hogg or Maxwell Frost saying, like, look, like we got other more pressing issues. Your primary is not until September, dude. We got fucking mail out over in Denver. That's happening like, shit, I got the list right in front of me. Colorado. That's fucking today, guys. Mail out is today. You think there's going to be any attention paid today to a New Hampshire race when you've got the primaries happening out in Colorado? You really think that's going to happen? Like, it's what it is. I'm fucking screaming in the void even talking about this stuff with you guys today because of that exact fucking dynamic. It's a big deal. That's what everybody's locked into. It sucks. It fucking sucks. But it's what's happening. You know what I mean? Like a huge portion of what we as leftists need to be doing is understanding that like there is so much ugly bullshit that we have to deal with that's true all the fucking time. All the fucking time. We just have to sit with that. We have to live with that, right? You can't be the fucking like chronically online Discord troll Marxist that's just like, well, I read Gramsci again this week and he said XYZ. And, if you really go back and you talk about the Society of the Spectacle from the Frankfurt School, then of course you would understand that you're just a jerk and you're just a working class racist and you're just a white guy that's fucking out here. It's like, no, dude, I'm just talking about fucking reality because I go touch grass. I'm fucking sorry. I'm fucking sorry. I'm sorry the world sucks. I'm sorry it's the way it is. I really am. Super depressing. Super fucking depressing. But like, if you don't actually interact with like the real problems, the real shit in front of us, then you're never going to overcome it. You're simply not going to be able to. That's just a fucking fact. It's brutal. It's wicked fucking brutal. And again, I mean, I brought up Sun Tzu like a bunch of fucking times today because I swear to God, it is like an hour and something, 1.52x that shit. It's free on YouTube. Go fucking listen to it. I am begging you. You will need to use flexible thinking in order to understand it because we are not talking about like BC era fucking battlefields. We are talking about information battlefields in politics. So you are going to have to adapt your concepts as you listen to it. But I swear to you, it is 1-to-1. And I will give you a fucking example. Anybody that knows NH Talk and is involved in the Discord, I literally posted this in there the other day. I'm going to read it to you now. Quote, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. And that's it. In order to know yourself and your enemy, what it requires is knowing what you yourself are wrong about and what your enemy is right about. And nobody likes to touch that fucking shit. Nobody likes to touch that shit because that means that it starts to crack at your ego. That is the part of it. This is sort of the yeah, drinking game every time I reference Art of War. Wait until I fucking get in a Machiavelli, guy. Wait until I get in a Machiavelli, because that shit matters too. But dead ass, like fucking heck. No, for real though. This is strategy right here. This is a fight. This is a war. This is I really, 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 really want people to fucking reframe their context, their of what we're doing right now. Um, because like this is super serious shit, right? Like, and if you don't take it seriously, then we're cooked. We're never gonna get out of this. I want to win, dude. Like, I want to not be stressed out about whether or not I'm gonna have a home next year or not. And actually, believe it or not, that is something that I am personally stressed out about right now. I really try to not like get into personal things on my stream. Really try to not talk about it because those are anecdotes that I don't like to bring up. And I'm not going to expound on that any more than I already have. But that is a real anxiety that I experience. Just for anybody that thinks that I'm some privileged asshole because I fucking sit on here with a fucking stream or whatever, right? I struggle like fuck. And a lot of the biggest anxieties that Americans face, that is a daily reality for me. Very much so. So that's my cash me outside moment. Anyways, yeah, so I guess we'll we'll do the moment where we pivot out of this conversation and get to the weird selection of SCOTUS W's and L's right now. So currently commenting from my garbage pay job. Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. This is what we do, man. Yeah, so breaking in a landmark 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court rules that geofence warrants, which allow law enforcement to collect sweeping smartphone location data over a broad area, constitute an unreasonable search and violate the Fourth Amendment. Fucking W. Fucking W, let's go. Broken clock, right. Twice a day. Yeah, I mean, the Supreme Court is kind of a weird sitch right now. Super weird situation. Like, everybody was super, super, super convinced that they were going to rule against birthright citizenship. And they fucking didn't, dude. They fucking didn't. Oh, goddamn, get out of here, AP. You know, divided Supreme Court on Tuesday upheld broad conception of birthright citizenship, rejecting President Donald Trump's executive order declaring that children born to people who are in the U.S. illegally or temporarily are not American citizens. Yeah, because an executive order doesn't fucking trump, no pun intended, the Constitution. Not really that complicated. We don't have a king in this country. We have a president. President is subject to checks and balances, even if those checks and balances do not want to actually check and or balance him. But again, rare W, very, very rare W for the Supreme Court. SCOTUS sometimes actually doing something right. I agree, Kyle, that it should have been unanimous, but dude, you know how they are. You fucking know how they are, man. I don't know what else to say. Oh god. Sixth Justice Brett Kavanaugh disagreed about the constitutional ruling, but pointed to a federal rule that says he broadly conveys that he said broadly conveys birthright citizenship. Yeah, I personally disagree, but the law does say this is the way to go. Fucking what a little fuck, dude. When your ideology is cucked by your profession, it's super funny. I hope he goes and jerks off to this later. Citizenship then and now was the right to have rights to freely participate in our political community. The framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn citizen of this land. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote for the court, citing a congressional debate over the amendment. We keep that promise today. Wow, John Roberts. Holy cow, who would have thunk? Who would have thunk it? But yeah, and we've got Donald Trump reacting here.
Mr. President, what do you make of the Supreme Court ruling today in regards to the mail-in ballots, and what comes next?
Oh right, yeah. Sorry, this was the other Supreme Court W. I forgot that. Oh hey, Big Jerry, welcome to the show. It's nice to have somebody that I'm not usually associating with. If you have any questions, concerns, gripes, or grievances, you can fucking hit me up with that. Hope you are enjoying your day. We out here. So yeah, the other big W from the Supreme Court that we got. I mean, and like, dude, guys, don't get it twisted. Like, we had a nice moment today. We had a pretty nice moment with some wins. We're gonna have a bunch of terrible losses, and like, I need to remind everybody that the fucking shadow docket exists. So keep an eye on that, please, for the love of God. Okay, so when it comes to mail-in ballots, the Supreme Court did rule that as long as a mail-in ballot is postmarked before the election, if it arrives after the election, it is still valid to count. So, here is Donald Trump reacting to that. He's probably going to be pretty fucking angry about it.
Do you have any questions?
Mr. President, what do you make of the Supreme Court ruling today in regards to the mail-in ballots, and what comes next for the SAVE Act after today's ruling?
Well, because of the mail-in ballot ruling, which was a little bit surprising, gives people more time to vote illegally, let's say. But the SAVE Act is even more important. The ruling, which a lot of people were waiting for, that was a ruling that was, I think it was very detrimental to honest elections. But it is what it is. Basically, they're keeping it a little bit the way it is now. They may have a little bit of a restriction on based on the wording.
Mr. President, question on the Slaughter case. The Supreme Court just affirmed your right to fire the heads of independent agencies. Should we expect more firings as a result of this ruling?
I don't.
Do you make the Supreme Court
hopping around here.
ruling
Let's start back
today
a
in
little bit.
regards to the mail-in ballots, and what comes next for the SAVE Act after today's ruling?
Well, because of the mail-in ballot ruling, which was a little bit surprising, gives people more time to vote illegally, let's say. But the SAVE Act is even more important. The ruling, which a lot of people were waiting for, that was a ruling that was, I think it was very detrimental to honest elections. But it is what it is. Basically, they're keeping it a little bit the way it is now. They may have a little bit of a restriction on based on the wording.
Mr. President, question
It's so funny. It's so funny because, like, I think Kyle's asking, does he have any idea what he was commenting on there? I don't think he really knows, man. I think my guess is that kind of like broke him a little bit. Like he's sitting there kind of like brain broken, and just like sputtering over it, but still trying to look like strong. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's, and I don't necessarily, I repeatedly say I don't like to fucking pontificate too much on Trump himself, because I think that, like, dude, like, I need to impress upon you guys. I need to fucking impress upon you guys that Donald Trump is not your fucking concern. Your concern is his, like, 20-something blonde aide. Your concern is Stephen Miller. Your concern is Marco Rubio. Your concern is Pete Hegseth. Like, these are the people that you actually need to fucking sweat. Donald Trump is this weird, like, ball. Like, he is basically just like a kneaded eraser, right? Like, all he can do is take things away and be molded into a new shape. That's all he's good for. That is it. There's nothing else. He's mostly focused on his stupid fucking reflecting pool and putting his name on as many things as possible so that nobody fucking forgets about him when he's dead. That's really all he cares about. So, like, don't let yourself fall into the, like, blue anon trap. The screaming blue sky liberal. When it comes to Donald Trump, like, you need to keep your eyes on the ball, right? And the people that you actually are fucking concerned with are the people that surround him. Like, dude, you need to be sweating Tucker Carlson. Holy fucking shit, is Tucker Carlson terrifying. Everybody needs to be watching that fucking dude. Every single person needs to be watching Tucker Carlson. Oh, wow. That guy is your actual fucking threat. Holy shit. Holy shit. Like, he is so much more articulate than Donald Trump. He actually has, like, very, very sketchy policy conceptions, and he is able to sort of weave in and out of things. He's a super duper threat. That's somebody you need to worry about. Again, you do need to worry about Stephen Miller, because a significant number of the horrible, horrible, worst possible fucking things that have happened over the past year and 6 months are directly associated with Stephen Miller. Directly. Like, I don't, like, stop fucking talking about Donald Trump. That is what contributes to the weird lob of, like, TDS. If you want to defeat the conservatives when they're like, oh, he's got TDS, these people have TDS, Trump derangements, and I'm like, brother, you're the one that deranged over the fucking guy, not me. I don't even think about him at all. that guy's not even on my fucking radar. I just think I like, dude, in a lot of ways, I kind of like Trump because I think he's funny, right? Like, I think he's sort of hilarious because of how fucking dumb and like self-involved he is. I think Trump himself is very entertaining. And it's funny to consume like the insanity there, but like, let's not forget that they understood that the amount of attention that the Epstein files consumed in the media cycle when it was really, really popping off was directly offset by the fact that they were like, let's fucking bomb Iran. Let's fucking link up with Bibi. Let's fucking bomb the shit out of that country. And you know who is fucking pushing that shit? Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller. Along with Netanyahu, of course. And I don't want to like create some weird illusion here that that like Netanyahu is the problem. No, like the problem is the insane Israeli voter base that doesn't think that Netanyahu went far enough. Right? Like you could even expand it to say, oh well, like I don't like Itamar Ben-Gvir or I don't like Bezalel Smotrich, right? Like as if you took Bezalel Smotrich or Itamar Ben-Gvir out of the equation, that somehow the calculus would change. No, there's going to be another one that fucking comes in and takes that place, and they're going to be even more fucking insane, right? What needs to happen is Israel itself as a country needs to be completely eliminated from the global economy. They need to be isolated even more so than North Korea is. Straight up. North Korea is not even fucking around. North Korea literally has nukes. North Korea could fucking erase South Korea from the fucking planet any day they wanted to, and they don't. They fucking don't. Like, what are we talking about? Like, North Korea is a significantly more rational actor than Israel. Objectively speaking, that's just true. That's just true. And I want you guys to fucking sit with that for a second. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. That's where we're at. Wow. Why? Madness. Sheer fucking madness. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm like, this is gonna make me fucking lose my goddamn mind because it's like you get stuck in this trap of like thinking about how fucking crazy things are and how little people understand what's going on, right? And you're not even necessarily like, you've got so many people that mistarget exactly the problem, right? One of my fucking favorites is when people are like, oh well, the left will defend Palestinians, right? But the Palestinians hate gay people, so what do you say to that, fucking leftist? And I'm like, look, okay, fine. Let's talk about the Palestinians hating gay people, right? That's their problem to fucking deal with. That's their issue. I am, in order to maintain my fucking principles, right? Sovereignty of nations is really important. If I go into another country and I say, no, I'm going to demand that you follow the same social justice prescriptions that I have, explain to me how that's not some form of ideological colonialism, right? I can say what I need to in order to encourage people to re-examine the scriptures that they rely on, right? If you're talking about people that believe in Islam, right? Like this, we'll use that as an example, right? There's a lot of space within Islam to understand that being gay is an okay thing, right? I mean, seriously, you've got Zoran Mamdani, who is a Shia Muslim who supports the gay and trans community. So there's precedent for this, right? There is precedent for this, but you're not going to convince them by bombing the fucking shit out of them. You're not going to convince them by beating the shit out of them in order to be like, no, you need to fucking support gay people. No, you need to let them fucking be able to like have a viable society first. And then as they enter the global space, what you can do is you can say like, look, man, like if you guys are willing to say maybe not hang gay people, we might let you have access to more resources. You make your choice. You can have economic prosperity, or you can continue to hang people that are somehow the other in your eye. You pick. You decide. That's how soft power works. And it only works if you respect sovereignty. You have to be offering something that's beneficial, not something that's detrimental. That's my fucking opinion. People might disagree with it, but I genuinely believe that the carrot is a better motivator than a stick. That's kind of where I'm at with that one. Anywho, it's 3. I gotta fucking deal with a bunch of bullshit in my life. You know, I don't have the time to fucking stream all day. It would be kind of cool if I did. But I do appreciate all you guys for hopping into the chat and just like engaging. That was really nice. I'm surprised I don't usually get this many chatters when I rip up, so it was nice. And I want you guys to have a nice day. I do. As nice as it can be. I know we're facing like a fucked up ass heat wave right now, so please stay cool, stay hydrated, stay fed, do what you got to do, be healthy, organize yourselves, come up with a good plan, follow that plan of action. That's what I got today. And I really genuinely hope and wish for the best for all of you guys. And I, you know, as opportunities arise, I will do my best to, you know, come back out here and do more content for you guys when the opportunity presents itself. So with that, y'all have an awesome afternoon. Enjoy yourselves. Take care, and we will catch you next time I do some shit. Later out.